series of our town coffee chats. Today we're going to talk about how COVID-19's been affecting our minor sports in town. And we have joining us Rick Stevens, the president of Orangeville Minor Hockey. We have Kent Davis, the president of the, is it the Northmen or is it Orangeville Minor Lacrosse? What's the official name, Kent?
Orangeville Minor Lacrosse.
Very good. Good. And Joe Andrews, counselor. And Joe also claims to be one of the best hockey coaches in town. And
I don't know. You've put that. You've claimed that.
I hung that one on you.
I'm happy to have coached.
Yeah. So Joe's hung around the rink like many of us have for many years as well. So Joe, thanks for coming on board.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, we're in some very unusual times. None of us have been involved in this, and it's there's a lot of anxiety over what's going on, frustration, I think, in some cases, and we have all of the kids that are involved in all the minor sports in town, all sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to break here. But I'll start off with you, Rick. The season ended precipitously, I guess. There was even, I think, Ontario Championship, OMHA Championship that was scuttled in the middle of it, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. We had our Pee Wee AE team, coached by Wayne Braden. So they're 12-year-old boys. They were in the finals for the OMHAs. So what they did is they actually gave both teams, they awarded them the gold medal and the red hats.
Oh, nice. Okay. I guess that was appropriate.
So,
yeah.
Some kind of a consolation anyway. At least they, they get to have their name on the trophy.
I'm sure all the kids and the coaches would have liked to play that one to completion, but anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess going forward, were you planning to hold tryouts in the spring as well?
Yeah, we had the ice booked. We were going to start in April, go through the first week of May and get our tryouts all done. But obviously they were postponed.
I again, it's too bad we're not maybe a couple weeks further down the road, because maybe there'd be some further announcements by the province on, how we can get back to planning the next season for hockey anyway. Yeah. So Kent, lacrosse is this is the time of year when you guys are on the floor or on the field playing, and it's disappointing, I guess, for everybody involved in Orangeville Minor Lacrosse. What are people doing? I guess kids getting together in groups of 2 or 3 and goofing around, or what's happening out there?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I've seen quite a few kids around their homes shooting and with their stick in their hand and things like that, which is always good to see. Right about now, we would just be finishing our tryouts for our rep teams. So we're not too far behind right now. We are still hoping to have some kind of box season. Right. We're just waiting on directive from obviously the province and the OLA. So we might be able to fashion some type of season, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. This is strange times for sure.
Yeah. What's the typical length of the box season?
Usually we're beginning the first games right around now. And then by the second week in August, we are finishing up our Ontario Championships. Right.
Interesting. So I wonder if by any chance we can get a season started in the summer. That would push hockey out a little bit. But I guess that may be a compromise. It's something that can be worked out, right?
Well, I know that the OLA has shared with us some plans on possibly a different type of looking season. There could be strictly playing tournaments and then playing our provincials, shortened season, things of that kind. Right. There's many scenarios. So far, we've only had to postpone our field that would have been played in the spring, and as of right now, we have plans to play in the late summer after box. And as far as hockey and so on, I'm sure we can work around. Rick and I can coordinate and make sure that everybody has their proper time.
Right. Good. So, Joe, were you planning to coach this year, or were you hanging up the whistle? What's going on?
I will say it was an interesting season. And first of all, I want to thank Rick and the executive with Orangeville Minor Hockey for just being phenomenal in communicating where we were and with the COVID issues. The communication, which of course came from Hockey Canada, and the directives that were eventually passed on to the membership, the coaching staff, of all different levels. Again, Rick and the crew there have been just wonderful. I think the biggest disappointment was, in fact, from the players themselves and the parents. For those of us that have coached for a long time, I've coached not only minor hockey, but also soccer and also basketball. And I take a look at some of the organizations we have in the community. I've even, taught tennis, and I see everyone is on somewhat of a holding pattern. And the frustration that exists is really with the young people who have dedicated so much and so much desire. As Kent knows, with lacrosse, we have a passionate lacrosse community, and there's nothing worse than having people sitting on the sidelines. You may have a few that are shooting a puck in their backyard, or passing a ball around, even a football with the Orangeville football team that we have in the minor sports there. I think the biggest frustration is the fact we didn't get a chance to officially complete the season. I was fortunate to be coaching a team this year that was in last place, and then we got into the playoffs, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in first place. And these were young gentlemen that were heading off to university or college, and so many of them were looking at this as their swan song, won't be coming back. And in my decision from coaching, I've always had this passion to coach young people, have enjoyed it tremendously. Where I sit for the fall, it's still up in the air. And, even from the counselor perspective that I'm fortunate to also have, there's been a number of people who've reached out and are asking, is there any way that we can end up getting into the parks and, even just, play around? The Lions open facility we have there on Diane Drive is one of those locations people have been looking at. And of course, unfortunately, we're not allowed to have the general public do what they normally would like to do. So, I really sympathize with Rick and Kent and the other organizers and presidents of the different minor sports organizations in the community. On one hand, you have people who are fully dedicated in making sure the organizations are successful, which they are, and we are really fortunate in our community to have these organizations and the leadership. But at the same time, you have the patrons, the parents, the players who are all anxious and wanting to play. But, again, here we are. Waiting and hopefully getting a lifting and or at least a modification to the pandemic shutdown that we have to all deal with.
Yeah. I guess some good news that we're hearing out, various sources, press sources, is that both the United States and Canada, the relaxation for young people is something that is being talked about now. And that's because this virus has not been affecting young people as much. There's some terrible tragedies with long-term care facilities, and the over 70 crowd has really been affected deeply by this, but it seems to be not affecting young people. So I would expect when Premier Ford steps up to start the relaxation, that one of the first things that would happen is that games involving young people could start to happen again. I would hope that that's the case, but I don't know. Has anybody got any dirt that they know of, background they've heard from their associations, like Rick or Kent? Have you heard anything that they think that might happen, that we could open up sports for young people sooner than later?
Well, presently the OLA is on hold till the 15th, and that is the directive we had received. I mean, obviously, we would like to begin play, and our members would want to play too. But I think the first and foremost thing is the safety of our members and our community. And I don't want us to jump into anything quicker than we should. And I think it's very important that we all pay attention to the people in charge, the medical people, to make sure we do this right, because the last thing we want to do is have a relapse, and possibly, as history tells us, could be worse.
Yeah, second wave is being threatened. Yeah, I guess reading some history about the Spanish flu, and they say the second wave came through was much worse than the first wave. So yeah, we need to pay attention to our public health officials. And what about you, Rick? Same thoughts probably, or you?
Yeah, I echo Kent. I think we have to wait and see what happens. I mean, we won't start up until September at the earliest anyway now. Just, because we're in this, ball hockey and lacrosse and everything else that plays during the summer. So, I mean, if we do get to start up in September, we would still like to run our Day of Champs that was canceled in March. Let the young lads get their trophies and do our Day of Champs for them for the house league. Right. Do our tryouts late August if we can. I'm certainly willing, and I also do the scheduling for Orangeville Minor Hockey, and I certainly want to work with all the other sports groups in town, and we'll figure out how to do that with the help of the town staff to facilitate so that everybody gets to play all the sports.
Yeah, very good. I was thinking about, I grew up in an era where face shields weren't required when I was playing minor hockey as a boy. But the face shields have evolved. You've got the cage style, but you've also got the full plastic. And, now that we're seeing full plastic out there as personal protective equipment, I wonder if there's going to be some mandate on that going forward.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, we haven't really heard much from the Hockey Canada, but I don't know what their plans are. But I mean, that's a great idea.
Well, if it provides the protection necessary, I never liked the plastic myself. I guess I sweated too much. It steamed up on me, and I like wearing the cage more. I thought it was a better vision for myself personally. But if the medical officials require that, there's going to be a pretty nice boost in sales for Bauer or whoever is going to be making those. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to spin around a bit here because we've put an application into the province for funding to, improve Alder Street Arena. And there are a number of things there that are possible. Both Rick and Joe are resident there quite often. So, one of the things was to add another rink, maybe improve the swimming facility and probably create a new state-of-the-art library there that, towns of our size have more modern libraries, the design of which are different than the standard library that you'd see at Mill Street. So those are some of the things that are out there. If that happens, then, another ice surface was to be added there, and that would relieve some of the pressure on Tony Rose. What do you guys think about, creating a field house at Tony Rose for, indoor during the wintertime, soccer, lacrosse, basketball, that type of thing? You guys supportive of that? Rick, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I would support that. Would that be both rinks at Tony Rose?
Again, yet to be determined. I mean, what I'm sensing is that hockey membership is in a slow decline just because of the changing demographic of Canada, right? And so if we have 3.5 rinks at Alder, is that enough for you? That's something you're going to have to determine. But if it does, then Tony Rose could become just a dry facility, and but the idea of having a field house type of, and I don't even know if B rink is satisfactory, because if you do a field house, you're typically a much taller building and bigger, so that you could play football or soccer indoors, because of both of those sports, the ball gets up pretty high. So, but it's just blue skying here. I just think that would be a great spot to do something like that.
Yeah, I know that we did a study with the town, the town did a study, and we were part of it. And I know we're right now sitting at about 3.5 rinks of ice that the town this size needs. And I think with the amount of downtime in Tony Roseby, I think 3.5 pads are suitable at this time.
Right.
So,
So Ken, what do you think about having a field house for the winter so that lacrosse could be either practiced or played during the wintertime? Is that a good idea?
Well, I mean, of course, we would like to play lacrosse all year.
Mm.
And we have the people that would certainly use a facility like that.
Right.
We have numerous of our members that go down to the various spots south of us that are available to play all year.
Right.
And there would be nothing better than for them to stay in Orangeville and do something like that. And we would wholeheartedly support something like that.
Awesome. Yeah, we can put an environmental spin on this too, Joe, right?
Absolutely.
We're saving gas money
Yeah.
and the environment. So there you go.
So many options there, Sandy, and I, not to overshadow what Rick and Kent have talked about, but I really like the concept. And if we're looking at blue sky, and I was also privileged to be a part of that discussion that Rick was talking about on the utilization of the facilities within the town. And I think that, looking at the other organizations that struggle and also primarily not struggle from a membership perspective, but, space and or types of space that they need. If the field house that you're speaking about is flexible enough that allows for football to be played, maybe some soccer too as well. I know Orangeville Minor Soccer has spoken about the idea of a field house for a number of years. And, to go 12 months out of the year, even having coached in the ball hockey league, if this thing could be adaptable in such a way that you have a variety of organizations that utilize the space and utilize it on a regular basis, I can certainly see the merits and the organizations that would be a part of it would, support it most definitely. But again, we're, crossing our fingers that, the request that has been put forth to the government comes through. Right now, as you are aware of, Sandy, we have some other priorities to get through, but crossing our fingers that maybe this funding will come through to support this particular initiative.
Yeah, I've been waffling on that, but I do think what's going to happen is both levels of government, the provincial and federal, are going to be continuing to throw money at infrastructure projects because they got to get the economy rebooted. And I don't think they're going to cut what they were planning to spend. I think they're either going to double down on it actually. And add more money into the economy because we're in a problem right now, financially, and the country's got to get back to work as quickly as possible. So I think the government will be pushing these programs. But if you think about a multidisciplinary building, historically we build these purpose-built hockey rinks, which are modified to accept lacrosse, right? And you guys kind of, work within the confines of the hockey rink. But if there was something that was able to be used by soccer, basketball, lacrosse, maybe even in a taller building, you could put a rock climbing wall in there, something where the facility can be used a lot more than it is. And I think the efficient use of the building is good for the taxpayer, right? I mean, and that type of multi-use building, I think we need to do something about. We really do. So hopefully we can find the dough between our federal and provincial partners and move ahead with that sometime in the not too distant future. I sure hope so. So, so what about? Is there any financial problems that are presented? I guess you guys are somewhat like the local municipal government. It's kind of cost recovery basis. We bring in money and we spend it, and there's a balance there. And in your case, if you need more money, you raise your membership fees. In our case, we raise the tax levy, but there's no profit being made. But are there any financial issues that you guys are facing right now as a result of this? Rick, can you start?
Yeah. No, we're actually okay right now, money wise. Mm-hmm. We usually run until the end of March with ice. Ice is our number one cost. Of course, hockey ended March 13th, so we're actually saved a little bit of money. So we actually have some money in the bank. Right. Obviously, we'll use that up as soon as we start again. We didn't have our tryouts and stuff, so we saved again there.
Mhm. Good. And Kent, what about you? Are you guys okay? Everything good on the fiscal front?
Our membership is very good, and our registration is been pretty level over the last little while. Sometimes we go up a little bit, and sometimes we go down a little bit. But other than that, financially, we are in good shape. We're one of the stronger organizations in the OLA. Our community supports us, and we appreciate that very much.
Mhm.
So we're able to sustain this. We did spend some money prior to the season beginning, nets and equipment, things like that, but we are able to absorb that. So we're in good also.
You know, yesterday I got an email from the president of the Twisters Gymnastics Club. They're in an unusual situation, a little bit different than both of your organizations, is that they're paying for that facility whether they use it or not. There's a lease agreement in place. And so they've had, the cessation of, of revenue, and yet they still have a burden to pay. So they're different than your organization. So we're going to have to look at maybe assisting them in some fashion going forward, because I've looked at the lease agreement, and yeah, they're supposed to pay a lease payment every month, and they've got no income. So it's much like some of the small business. I don't know if they can tap into any of the federal or provincial programs. They may fall outside of that because they're not a business, right? They're essentially a nonprofit, but they do have expenses that they have to deal with. So that's another interesting dilemma we're going to have to deal with in the coming days. So anyway, we're just about out of time here. We usually put about a half hour into this, and so Kent, did you want to have a final thought about what the future holds for Orangeville Minor Lacrosse, and not just COVID, but any new things that are coming up on the horizon for your organization?
Well, we're hoping again that we do have some sort of season this year. And if we don't, again, the most important thing is the safety of everybody. Our tournament is still at present a go. The summer shootout that we have in the third weekend of June. It is now an historical tournament. One of the best ones in the province. So hopefully we still are able to participate in that. But if we're not, then we'll just move ahead and see what we can do, and start again next year.
So that if that gets canceled in June, is there any possibility of bringing it forward later in the summer, or is it?
Well, we would have to talk to our organizer. See, it takes a lot. There's 40 plus teams involved.
Right.
It does take a lot of organization, and that goes on all the way through the whole year. So we may not be able to do it this year, but if we can, and things work out, we will try that for sure.
Very good. And Rick, how about you? What anything new on the horizon for Orangeville minor hockey? And you got final words here to share with us?
Yeah, nothing new right at this point. We have some things we're working on in the background. Working with you on some efforts to help out minor hockey, and possibly getting another organization to come into town.
Right.
Just want to let the community and our membership know that Orangeville Minor Hockey is still working. We had an executive meeting on Wednesday. We're going to be ready to go as soon as we get the green light.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that everybody's safe out there and enjoys the summer if they can.
Great. Thanks, Rick.
And thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and thank you for having me today, and it was a pleasure.
Yeah. No, we've been looking at these different things, and Orangeville, we're a sports crazy town. I mean, we want to reach out to you guys and kind of tap into that. And it's really this whole crisis has affected us in so many ways in our lives, from business to education to our sporting lives. And it's I just wanted to reach out to you and know that the town itself is thinking about you and all the players that are frustrated by not being able to get out on the field or onto the court or onto the ice surface. And as soon as the public health officials give us the green light, we'll be full bore in supporting everybody to get back into play. So Joe, I'll leave the last word to you, sir.
Well, that's very kind. I think that, one of the things that I look forward to is not only the resumption of our minor sports in our community, but the opportunity to cheer the players on. I think that that's something that's really very important. I think the new norm, and Rick and Kent, you may have not have spoken about this with your executive, but my assumption is, and having been through the trainers program and a certified trainer, I anticipate that the PPEs that the trainers would be wearing, such as gloves, we're going to end up seeing that elevated to the entire coaching staff, maybe on the bench. That may be even in some respect, as Sandy was talking about, the plastic shield. Not to say that that would be dramatic, but I think that we're going to see some changes, at least for the short term, moving back into the different arenas and forums, social distancing still being applied. I feel that, even in the dressing room, we may end up having to have 2 dressing rooms for teams just to make sure that there's that social distancing applied. How that is done logistically, that's something that, of course, you gentlemen are going to have to deal with. And I think the community is going to have to end up accepting that for some time to come. But, relying on our public health unit, they're going to give us the directive on how best to move forward. And I think we're all looking forward to the green light that we can get back to some form of minor sports in the very short future. So thank you, Sandy, and Rick and Kent, for being a part of this today.
I guess we're going to have to rethink some celebrations, probably.
Yeah.
the hugging your buddy who just popped the goal, it's sometimes I don't know. We're going to see how that shakes out as we go forward. But I wish we could get back to normal, but I think it's going to be several months, maybe a year or 2, before we're really back to where we were prior to this crisis. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me this morning, and looking forward to getting out to watching lacrosse and hockey in the near future. So thanks, guys. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Be safe.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.